arrest of Arvind Kejriwal. Just a short while ago, his lawyer Abhishek Manu Singhvi was holding a press conference where he has once again said that there is absolutely no need for the Enforcement Directorate to arrest Arvind Kejriwal. He says that this is the death of democracy in a way. He says that every opposition party has now come together, and that why exactly is the government arresting Arvind Kejriwal on the cusp of elections? Remember, the Rouse Avenue Court has now reserved its order in Arvind Kejriwal's case. The ED had produced the Delhi Chief Minister at Rouse Avenue Court today after he was arrested late last night in the money laundering case in connection with the Delhi excise policy. ED has levied major allegations against Kejriwal. The ED claims that Kejriwal is in fact the kingpin of the Delhi excise policy. Meanwhile, AAP leaders and workers have marched towards Kejriwal's residence from Gopal Rai's residence. All eyes are, of course, on the court's verdict as the ED sought a 10-day remand of Arvind Kejriwal. What really will be the decision of the court as far as the remand is concerned remains to be seen. But what really are the charges and allegations against Arvind Kejriwal, and what do they mean as far as the legality of the case is concerned? We take this conversation forward with Advocate Neha Rastogi, Advocate Gyanendra Mishra. Manasvi Thapar will also be joining us in just a short while from now, and I also have with me Joyita Basu, editor of the Sunday Guardian, with me as well. Let me begin with Advocate Neha Rastogi, if I can. Neha Rastogi, the court has now reserved its order. Only time will tell whether Arvind Kejriwal, how long the remand will be for Arvind Kejriwal granted to the Enforcement Directorate. But as far as some of the allegations are concerned against Kejriwal, when we look at what is it that what is it that has been presented before the courts, what do you make of some of the charges when the Enforcement Directorate says that he was in fact a part of formulation of the policy? I mean, he was Delhi Chief Minister, so of course he would be a part of the formulation of the policy. How does that then indicate that he was also being corrupt?
Very well question asked, Devika. Devika, first thing I want to say you, this argument today has gone almost like 3 to 4 hours there in the Rose Avenue Court. And they have already presented all the evidence and everything, ED director side. They have shown it proper evidence, not only that part. He has shown the evidence also where they have the frequent WhatsApp messages, then meeting with each other. There were so many things between Arvind and other people. And despite of the fact, this to be very, we have to understand that thing, if court has heard so much from the both of the side and then he has given the 10-day remand, so obviously they have some concrete evidence with them.
No, Neha, the court has not granted the remand yet. It's reserved the order. They've not, the verdict is not out yet on what has really happened in the court. But let me bring in Advocate Gyanendra Mishra into the conversation as well. Advocate Mishra, Abhishek Manu Singhvi outside of the court says that there is actually no direct evidence of Arvind Kejriwal's involvement. Merely him being the Chief Minister at that point in time and formulating the policy does not indicate that he was involved in any sort of corruption. And at the same time, like I said, he is saying that the Enforcement Directorate has not really been able to prove or bring the links of corruption directly back to an Arvind Kejriwal. But the Enforcement Directorate says that there is now the possibility of just getting rid of evidence, right? Electronic evidence can be destroyed. In such cases, on what basis then does the court formulate its decision?
Thank you, Devika, for having me on this call. And as you rightly said, yes, there has been today argument and counter argument. But the fact remains, that this excise policy trial is almost for last 2 years is going on. Until now, the ED has not been able to file the charge sheet. Secondly, there have been observations by the multiple courts, including the Supreme Court. You will remember very clearly that during the hearing before the Supreme Court has basically reprimanded ED, saying that the case that you have brought before us will not stand the scrutiny of trial court even for 2 minutes, and it will fail flat before the trial court with the evidence that you have brought before us. And it was the Supreme Court who said to the ED that you keep talking about that the money has been taken by the Aam Aadmi Party and it was used in the Gujarat election, but you have not even made the party an accused. And after this observation by the Supreme Court, the ED said that, okay, my lord, we will also consider to make Aam Aadmi Party as a party to accuse. See, what we are talking about here is a PMLA case. And in the PMLA case is based on the primary assumption of the proceed of crime. And for that, a money trail is necessarily to be established. Now, as far as we know, up to this point of time, though there has been no evidence produced by ED before any court, including the trial court, where they have been able to establish the trail of the crime of proceed.
Yes.
The only thing which comes to what basically ED has made up his case is the statement of co-accused. Most of the arrests that are being made by ED is based on statement of co-accused who has turned approver in this case and given pardon by ED and the government and the court. And they are telling that, okay, I took the money and I gave it to him. I gave the money to him, or the money was being given in front of my eyes or in front of my presence. But basis that you make a case. And now as far as this, that the argument is always, made that, see, the court is not granting bail and therefore there must be some substantive evidence. See, for that you will have to understand the way the PMLA Act has been drafted, which is little exception to the normal criminal procedure CRPC, where the innocence of the accused is presumed. And you as an accused has to discharge your liability to prove that you are innocent. And therefore, the provision in the PMLA for the bail is highly stringent. And if the ED comes to the court and say, okay, we have got this statement, now we are proving it, now we are examining it, and we will bring some more evidence before the court necessarily then says that, okay, you are doing the investigation, you keep doing investigation and does not grant bail, because
Right.
the ED makes an argument that these are the powerful people.
Okay.
If they are granted bail, they will basically, destroy the evidence, and therefore the bail is not granted. Not being given bail is not a presumption that any credible evidence has been put before the court to prove the guilt of these people.
Okay, but Joyita, does that then, when you're not granted bail, does that do the job of at least tainting your image, whether you're granted bail or not? At the end of the day, if the message is out there that this person has been arrested, is behind bars, has then the narrative changed, and does then Arvind Kejriwal's image still take a hit?
Well, I think Arvind Kejriwal's image...
Sorry, this
Gyanendra
question
Mishra,
was...
yes. No, this is the question for Joyita Basu, please.
Yeah, Arvind Kejriwal's image has taken a hit for a very long time now. I mean, if you look and, go and talk to Delhi people in general, people out on the streets, his image has taken a severe hit for a very long time. And if you remember the disclosure that happened about alleged expenditure, where he had allegedly spent 8 lakh rupees on one curtain, and I think some 50 crore rupees was spent on one particular house. So all those things have really dented his image, and it's all about perception. So just as people who are kind of supporters of Kejriwal, they are saying, oh, there is no evidence against him in any way. People who are opposed to him is that saying, oh my God, there is so much evidence against him. It's ultimately what we are witnessing is a battle of perceptions. And the thing is that, yes, of course, what matters is that the very fact that he is not getting a bail, more important, not him actually, his earlier, that those people, we remember those Manish Sisodia and all, now they have not been given bail, and now that itself, I mean, when you, again, I am looking at it totally from what people are thinking. people are thinking that, you know, dal mein to kuch kala hai zarur. So the whole point is that those people are also not getting bail. So something is going on. So for example, yesterday also what happened, the court was, it seems initially was not too keen to give to, that take away the immunity from arrest. But after ED wanted a separate, I think they wanted to chat with them separately and showed them quote unquote the evidence. I have not seen that, so I do not know. It was after that the court said no immunity to be granted to Kejriwal. So automatically what happens in the public perception, people will think, you know, people are not going to go into the nitty-gritty of what the lawyers say and what the law is and what the clause and subsection clause and clause is there. People are not going into that. What people are watching is that he did not get bail, he was supposed to give him immunity, he did not, the court did not give him the immunity. So obviously there is something wrong over there. So even otherwise, you know, people will say let the law take its own course. It's as simple as that. We are not here to debate about, you know, whether this is the right way to go about it and all. The court, they are already fighting it in the court. It's ultimately what we are going to witness is that whether they can play it to gain sympathy from the people, because elections are anyway coming up, because that is what the whole thing is ultimately going to boil down to.
Okay, at the same time, Manasvi Thapar, bringing you into the conversation, talking about perception or even talking about following due diligence and procedure for the enforcement directorate to take this sort of a step, does that also somewhere send out a message or a signal that yes, there is concrete evidence and proof with the agencies basis which an Arvind Kejriwal and his remand and custody is being sought, basis which his arrest is being sought, that the agency itself would not have taken this step?
One thing,
this is for Manasvi Thapar. Neha, I'll come to you in just a moment. Manasvi.
Yeah. So, Devika, prima facie, it looks like ED is well equipped with the evidences and their investigation against Arvind Kejriwal and the leaders of Aam Aadmi Party. It looks like they're well equipped with everything, the arms and ammunitions which they have since 1.5 years, 2 years. They've been fighting this case and investigating the nitty-gritties of the case. And there have been observations that there is some kind of money trail also being, I would not say established, but it has been quoted in the one of the orders. So they are there. On the timing front is something I would if there's anyone to be blamed on the timing aspect of it, I think it is Arvind Kejriwal ji on that, because when the first summon or the second summon came to his way, he could have actually attended the meeting, he could have actually cooperated in the investigation, and he could have continued with his own legal recourse. Why do I say that? Is because he gave that opportunity of 9 summons and he went to the High Court, and the High Court, after not accepting, High Court actually disposed of his petition, and this gave that opportunity to ED to go towards the CM's house and then take him for remand and produce it before the court. And now we are waiting for the final order, will the remand would be given or not would be given. So that is something which is a legal domain of Arvind Kejriwal ji's aspect towards this particular case. But prima facie, looking at all the situations, what have happened as of now, the things are not looking very good for Aam Aadmi Party, even in the way of perception, in the legal point, and also as a plank of corruption. A political party which was formulated on the plank, and Arvind Kejriwal ji as a crusader of anti-corruption, all the corruption charges on the leaders of Aam Aadmi Party, and now he's been termed as a kingpin by the media houses and by the ED in that argument. So this particular entire argument set of arguments was like a trial. If you observe this argument since the morning till right now, it was recently just reserved for orders. It was an entire trial. The ED went through all the nitty-gritties of everything. So it would be nascent for me to say that ED was not well equipped. ED did not have the ingredients to fight for this particular case. They had everything at place. Only person to blame in this would be, legally speaking, if we talk about the timing aspect of it, is Arvind Kejriwal ji, because he was the person who was avoiding it.
Yes.
Had it been the case, he was not avoiding it, and ED comes and raid his house just last night, then my narrative would have been that the summon was 6 months back and today ED just realized to come here. So that would be a different talk point or a topic I would have touched upon. But right now, if you ask me point blank, Manasvi, tell honestly who's the person to blame legally also and politically also. I think it is Arvind Kejriwal ji. I would have all the sympathies for him and his supporters, and I myself was an admirer of Aam Aadmi Party 10 years back. But the optics of it is not right. And when optics are not right, and legally speaking also, the situation is not very good for Aam Aadmi Party and Arvind Kejriwal ji on this particular aspect.
Okay. Neha Rastogi, then why do you think Arvind Kejriwal in fact chose to ignore the summons by the Enforcement Directorate for so long? Did that then not play into the public's perception, an image of slight arrogance on behalf of the Delhi Chief Minister?
That shows that a clear indication that he was well aware of this fact. In case if he will go for the investigation, they are going to arrest him. Because he was also aware of this fact, his involvement was there, or other senior leaders has already named his in that related to that complaint. And apart from this, you're talking about his image. His image is really gone bad from the last so many years. Because likely somebody said his home issue, then that curtain and furniture, every issue was there. And he should be act as a responsible citizen of this country, because he is addressing as a CM of Delhi. So he should be very particular with the cooperation for the investigation. So intentionally he was avoiding not one, not two. He was avoided almost like 9 summons. He appealed to all different court. Now finally court ED has not left with any other option. So finally he has to arrest him.
Okay, Gyanendra Mishra, same question to you. What do you think was perhaps going on in the minds of the Aam Aadmi Party, their strategists, and also Arvind Kejriwal's lawyers, who probably gave him the advice that you can avoid the ED summons, that you should take other legal recourse, and then continue that on for 9 summons of the Enforcement Directorate? If you are innocent, one can say if you are innocent, then you go ahead with the first summon itself.
So that is obviously the one way of looking at it, and then the law normally requires that if any investigating agency is issuing summon to you, you are supposed to go and comply with the summon. But the Aam Aadmi Party and Arvind Kejriwal always has taken a stand that this entire investigation is driven by the political revenge, as an strategy to destroy the opposition parties, including the Aam Aadmi Party. And there is no merit in the summons. It is all driven by political expediency. And therefore, I am not going to attend the summon, whether right or not. That's a different thing, because you know the consequences, because that law is very simple. You really need not to brainstorm to understand this law, that if you will not comply with the summons, and that to the successive summons, the investigative agency has a right then to arrest you on the ground that you are not cooperating with the investigation, and therefore your custodial interrogation or investigation is required or important, and therefore there is a necessity for arrest, and which the ED has done. And what were the political consideration behind it? It is very difficult to say. Maybe Aam Aadmi Party and Arvind Kejriwal looking it as a fait accompli, because they were making the regular statement or consistent statement that CBI or ED will arrest him at any point of time. So they were in knowledge of that this arrest of Arvind Kejriwal is inevitable, and they may be trying to, in their own understanding and analysis, take the political advantage of it, in the sense that if the arrest happens, so that's the one aspect of it, that if the arrest happens near the election, it will galvanize the opposition, energize the opposition, and he may get the sympathy vote because of his arrest, saying that he is being victimized, and the BJP and the ruling distinction is trying to finish the Aam Aadmi Party. So there could be the various considerations behind that decision not to comply with the summon.
No, but ultimately, Gyanendra Mishra, it boils down to not complying, right? That's the bottom line. You did not comply with the agency. Joyita, can that be read as anything other than perhaps the Aam Aadmi Party making the wrong decision as far as the summons of the Enforcement Directorate were concerned, given that they kept on sending those summons and you keep on avoiding them, you keep on rejecting them? Yes, you may want to take a larger position saying that the agencies are working on the behest of the ruling government, that the agencies are not being fair. But you can't do that by not complying, because that sends out another message, a very different message altogether.
Well, Devika, a very strong theory is growing the rounds, as my previous panelist also mentioned. The theory is he has been delaying the summons deliberately. With basically what he did, the summons he would kind of time it in a manner that they come just ahead of the Lok Sabha elections, and the whole idea is that that will be giving him that sympathy factor and galvanize the opposition. So, that is the sole reason that he has been delaying the summons for months now. Now, if that is the case, again I am going to say this is a conspiracy theory. Now, the thing is that if that is indeed the case, that makes him into a very devious politician. So, I would rather give him the benefit of the doubt and just say that he was misled by his council, he was misled by his party members to believe that he can get away by doing this. Although frankly speaking, I do not understand why he did it like the way he did for all these months. So, I mean, if you ask me, that is a very grey zone right now. We do not know. And that other theory that is, as I said, doing the rounds, well, if not probable, maybe it is also possible.
Okay, Manasvi, bringing you back into the conversation then, if the rumors then are to be believed, maybe one can say that, okay, this works in the favor of an Arvind Kejriwal, where the Aam Aadmi Party now gets to use this. The opposition is already using this as a poll issue, it has become. But why does this then work in the favor of an agency that's trying to do its job? One has to understand that Manish Sisodia was arrested over a year ago. Manish Sisodia has been in custody for over 12 months. In 12 months, what stopped the Enforcement Directorate then from finding any link or any solid proof to actually come after an Arvind Kejriwal?
See, actually, I don't think this delay would be in favor of Arvind Kejriwal ji. Why would I say that would be? That this is something which he didn't anticipate, this is something which he didn't plan. This is something, it's misfortune for him and his political party. And what remains is, with the investigation trial has to be concluded, only then we'll come to know were they truly guilty or not guilty. Before that, it's too much of a hypothesis which we can, as per our convenience, we can go anywhere. But the reality is, until the trial is completed, we should not also speak anything on that front, because we don't have the exact papers, we don't have the exact understanding. Whatever we have is a grapevine communication which we get through, and we try to make our opinions out of it. But the reality is, the trial is not concluded, the trial has not been started enough so that we can even guess out what is going to happen. But one thing is for sure, Manish Sisodia ji has been into behind the bars since last 1.5 years. Sanjay Singh is also behind the bars, and now Arvind Kejriwal ji is also behind it. There have been multiple occasions, I would say yesterday and today, wherein the two different courts have gone through the entire sets of documents. Before High Court passed an order, it was High Court which went through all the documents in private, and then they decided that ED should take whatever action they have to take. And now the Rose Avenue Court will finally take an order of whatever the investigation, whatever the arguments have happened in the entire day today. So it is not very right for us to say that it will go in his favor, because these sympathy votes, these sympathy creation will not happen right now. Why? Because it's a 2024 election. It's a modern India. Sympathies, the entire timeline of Arvind Kejriwal with his chief minister residence, with Manish Sisodia ji going behind the bars, Satyendra Jain going behind the bars, Sanjay Singh going behind the bars. The entire timeline is not of a sympathy. The entire timeline is of something that these people, who the entire country believed are going to be fighting against corruption, have suddenly been on the charges of corruption. So the voters are not going to vote for them. An entire set of things have happened after the MCD election. So and the next election is going to be the Lok Sabha election. And after that, the Delhi Vidhan Sabha. Only then we'll come to know what is the pulse of the people right now. The right now's action would be the reaction of the voters in 24 and afterwards the 25 election. So the theme of it is not of a sympathy. The theme of it is not in the favor of Arvind Kejriwal. Even if we would want to believe that there are advisors or there are
Yes.
councils who are counseling him that this will go in your favor, I don't think so, because the timeline, the background is not in the favor of Arvind Kejriwal. So this is something in the olden age or in the times of our late politics, wherein if someone goes behind the bar, there is a sympathy wave which comes out, or there is an entire movement which would happen. But this is on corruption. So on corruption, who's going to side against anyone? I don't think in the present day India, anyone openly publicly could side someone in on the case of corruption. If we prove out, if Arvind Kejriwal ji and his entire top leadership proves it out, the case was a sham. It was a scam
Yes.
done by the ED and led by the BJP.
Okay.
Then at that time, the entire wave would be different. But as of now, in 2024, I don't think so. It's going to be very easy for them.
Okay, Joyita wants to respond. Joyita, just on that thought, see, these trials are going to take a very long time, right? And we've seen that with starting with the arrest of Manish Sisodia. It's been over 1 year already. So, and it was the same thing with the 2G case as well. At the end of it, A. Raja was acquitted. But the damage was, one can say, probably already done.
Well, I'll tell you what is going to happen, or rather what is happening in this case. Frankly, as far as people are concerned, whether Kejriwal is arrested or not, the only thing that frankly bothers them right now, his vote bank, is that how much freebies are we going to get? You know, whether having Kejriwal as chief minister or not having him as chief minister, whether that affects our electricity bill, whether that affects our water bill or not, you know, basically that is the only thing, you know. So beyond that, I don't think that there is, it's not sympathy, it is basically people will see whether their interests are being affected or not. And I think that is what, because if you go again and talk to the people, that is what people talk about. You know, the reason why Kejriwal is winning is because he is giving all these freebies. Okay.
Right.
So that is the only reason, nothing else.
Okay, all right. That's all the time that I have. I thank all of our panelists for joining us on the broadcast. On the other side, we discuss some of the political ramifications of what is happening in the national capital right now.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.